So, just notified that I'm being drafted. I'm 52 years old, being drafted into the Army, which is kind of silly. I don't even understand why it's the Army. Because I was in the Navy when I was 18 to, 24 or whatever, to 22, 23, whatever it was. I was on a submarine, so it's just really strange that they put me in the Army. You'd think they put me where I know a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with Carolyn. I mean, we got to do the place down a little bit so she can take over my chores while I'm gone to war for the next possibly 20 years, is my understanding. I mean, the last war was 20 years. It's pretty cool. You get to retire just so you can go back to retire again. It's interesting how things are working. I mean, I guess they just changed the law, or they're going to change the law. But so I would expect that everybody who is, I guess, above 35 or whatever it is, will have to get ready to go to war. They're even talking about people in wheelchairs, dementia patients. It's incredible. Kind of reminds me, I mean, reminiscing a little bit since this has come up. I mean, I'm going to get into this in a minute. When I joined the Navy, I joined in the summertime, but I wasn't able to get in until March. I don't know why there was such a long waiting list, but that's how it worked. My cousin, who was 100 miles away from me, was a recruiter. He had a brother who eventually was recruited by his brother. I had two cousins, and they lived in the middle of Missouri, and I lived on the east side of Missouri. Of course, when I was staying with Mom's house, I would visit my cousin quite often. I knew all my cousin's friends, not the recruiter, the younger brother. The younger brother and myself were the same age. The recruiter was significantly older, maybe 10 years older than me. So two cousins, 10 years older and my age. When I went over to visit my cousin that was my age, of course I knew his friends. So when I joined, I went to the MEP station. I guess you go to the MEP station twice. I'm not really sure how, I don't remember how it all worked out, but regardless, went up there to go to boot camp. And they give you a hotel room, really nice hotel room. And one of my cousin's friends, put 2 people per hotel room, was in the room. So we knew each other. It was kind of neat. I know that's a stupid story, but it was neat. It gave me a positive send-off into the Navy. That first day in the Navy was, whew. It's interesting how they can lie to you. They get you up at 4:30 in the morning, put you on a plane. You go to the MEP station, you put you on a plane. And then you land in Chicago. That's where the boot camp was, Chicago. Remember, it's March, so it's cold. They put you on a bus, and these guys are telling you, oh man, they'll have you out of there and in bed by 9 o'clock. And it's probably 5 o'clock now. They don't have you in bed by 5 o'clock. It's more like 3 o'clock in the morning. And an hour later, they're waking you up. Oh, if you want to have an emotional breakdown, go to boot camp with an hour's worth of sleep. Whew, that's a rough psychological moment. But it teaches you, it taught me, what being tired can do to your emotions. And I've always known now that when I'm tired and I'm emotional, it's not real. It's because I'm tired. And then of course I joined the Navy, went on a submarine. When I was in MEPS, they asked me if I wanted to be on a submarine. Yeah. I don't know, it just seemed like that's something I would be good at. I feel like I was too. And then they gave me a West Coast guarantee. And I figured West Coast would be California or Hawaii. But it was even better than that. It was Washington. Oh, when you're not into politics and you live in Washington, that was the best state to be in. It was so beautiful. I've went back to visit once since I got out of the Navy. It just never ceases to thrill me. When we got to Washington, it was a 90-degree day, which was very unusual, and it was sunny. It was incredible. You can see Mount Rainier from our town. I hadn't gotten an apartment yet. It was about a week later. Oh, it was just right there in the Sound. I ended up getting an apartment on the Sound, Puget Sound. It was Dyes Inlet. You can look that up on the map. Silverdale, Washington. Then when I went back, I guess I went back, I'm going to say 2005-ish time frame, somewhere around there. I drove up there, and it was April. and no clouds. Now, Washington is nothing but clouds 90% of the time. The 2 times I went up there to visit or get introduced to it, whatever you want to call it, it was a beautiful sunny day. You see Mount Rainier. So it's been a kind of a reminiscing day for me. I really enjoyed thinking about it. I like the submarine. People ask me if I regret getting out. I don't. I've had a good life. I've done a lot of neat things. I would have never met my daughter. I adopted my daughter. She is an absolute genius. She's got all kinds of degrees and we homeschooled her. So I have no regrets. I ran my own company. How can you regret that? Do I wish I'd have stayed in? I don't know how you could wish 2 things at once. I wish I'd have stayed in on a submarine, and I wish I could have ran my own business. So I'm glad I did both. How about that? So it's my understanding that the draft will not work this time around. So they're changing everything up. You're going to draft old people instead of young people. What it is young people, 70% of them cannot meet the requirements to enter the military. Too big, or they have mental issues. I guess it's really bad. So 70% of the population that is of age to be drafted don't qualify currently to enter the military. Now, I do believe that they do lower the standards when the draft actually takes place, so that's kind of confusing to me. So if they can't meet the physical requirements for military, they'll reduce it. And then if you don't meet the written exam, they can educate you, and it'll do all kinds of things to get you ready. This is my understanding. I thought this is the way it worked, but apparently not. At least that's how I think it worked in Vietnam. What was interesting, what I didn't understand is a lot of these people are saying that they're going to dodge the draft if they are drafted. During the Vietnam draft, half, I just looked it up, were somehow exempt or disqualified from being able to join the military. I don't understand how 70% is that huge of a leap. Now, the other thing is, and I'm not advocating for this, not by any stretch of imagination, it just seems to make more sense than drafting an old man like me. Women are now allowed in the military, so you could draft them or something like that. I don't see why that would be such a big deal. They want to be in the military. I say they like they're some sort of alien species. I didn't mean to imply that. The women want to be in the military nowadays, so they're in the military. So if you're going to draft old people, couldn't you draft younger women to kind of make up for the numbers that we are losing? The other thing is the community that I don't like to address on this channel because I don't know how YouTube would punish me for it, but there's a community of people who have preferences of a mate different than my own. I would prefer to have a mate that is of a female stature, whereas some would rather a male stature. I hope I explained that well enough everybody understands it. They're allowed to join the military now. So if you were community back in the Vietnam War, you'd have been disqualified instantly. Now we have those people. But apparently, it's my understanding that those people, again, have a mental disability. So they want to be in the military, but they don't want to be in the military, so they have a mental disability that keeps them out of the military. It's kind of strange. I don't understand the whole thing, but that's just the way it's working out. That now old men have to serve again, especially if you already served, I guess, because the younger generation doesn't want to go in the military. Now, I mean, there's videos floating around of guys saying, well, I'd rather get 5 years of free rent and free food in prison than going to the military. And of course, the preppers are making these videos telling me, well, they're not going to like prison. Yeah, they are, guy. Prison will be a perfect match for these folks. Because the thing that I don't want to go to prison for, Bubba, hey, you got a purty mouth. I don't want to meet Bubba, but these guys might actually enjoy Bubba. I'm trying to be clean here. So free meal, free rent, and all the bedtime entertainment you can have. How can you beat that? So here's my proposal, is if they're going to dodge the draft because they want to go to prison to get free food and free rent, why not just arrest them, put them in the military, give them free food, free rent, and they can work off their payment to society by keeping this world safe. Remember, our country has been in war nearly my entire life. It's been in war for 20 years. We just got out of a war. Just got out of a war. And then I joined the day the first Bush, President Bush, the first one, back in the 90s, declared war. We've been in war a lot, or some sort of conflict, a lot. In the Cold War, a lot. So people are all frightened. Oh no, we're going to war. No, we're just continuing the war that we were already in. This is not changing anything. Okay, so obviously this video is a bit of a satire. I watched the video, and then you read the 800 comments under the video. And somehow, these people are able to brainwash at least 800 people of the most insane, ludicrous, ridiculous information you can put out there. And they just gobble it up like, I know, man, you're right on. I don't know how I could do it. So let me give you a half of a second of critical thinking. This is all it took me to figure out, what? This is insane. This is nuts. So 70% of the population that is eligible for the draft don't meet eligibility requirements. So these preppers are saying that they're going to draft, or will be responsible for, or something, that the older population will have to fight this war. So me, 52 years old, I have asthma issues now. I didn't have when I was a kid. Knees don't work quite as well. So this YouTuber specifically said, they're even gonna make us go in wheelchairs. We're gonna have to defend this country. So the people who are of age are not eligible because of their physical problems. So we're going to get people who are not of age that have worse physical problems to fight the war. And people are buying it. People are like, oh my gosh, this is so frightening. My husband, he just turned 60. We were just getting ready to retire. But you're right. So you're telling me that we just fought a war for 20 years, been out of this war for 2, and all of a sudden, the population that was fighting it 2 years ago can no longer fight. So we got to fight. I mean, how does this even make sense? And how do you convince people that this makes sense? How is it they don't take 2 seconds to think, wait a minute. We're gonna, now here's what I would do if people are not eligible to go to military because they're overweight. You draft them. You put them on a weight loss program, and that's pretty easy. You put them in the barracks and you don't feed them. You make them do push-ups for 8 to 10 weeks. And when they're of the weight that you want them at, then you put them in boot camp. So yeah, we got to pay a little bit extra to get these people in shape. But you know what might actually be good? These people might learn something on how to be a man, and how to take care of their family, and how to take care of their country. Instead of saying, oh, no, they can't do it. We'll let the old people do it, because who else can do it? Nobody can save our country but us narcissists. Get over yourself. It's my opinion that there are men in this world who have never challenged their manhood, who never tested themselves. And so testosterone, I know the women are going to hate this part of the conversation, but testosterone finally says, hey man, when are you going to do something that actually uses me? I've been hanging out here for 50 years and you haven't done anything. And if you don't do something quick, you're going to die, and you're never going to know if you could do it. So these old men sit around on their YouTube channel screaming and hollering how they want the end of the world to happen. They want some war to come around. They want China to come and attack us so they can defend themselves against the Chinese army, which, look, dude, you're delusional if you honestly believe that if you're 50-something years old and you think you can defend yourself against the Chinese army, here's what I have done. I used to feel this way also. My testosterone level was always pushing me to do things that were pretty extreme. And I just recently got over it. It's not because I got old, it's because I did it. I decided, you know what, I want to hook up. I want to disconnect from the electric grid. I want to get my own water every day. I want to be able to hunt my own food. I want to be able to raise my own food. So if you click this up, next box takes you to a video where I was talking about I can't use propane. Living off grid. So if I can inspire you to stop being afraid so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.